let's go to the agenda. Well, I'm already in the introductory part that should not last that much time, and then we will dedicate most of the time to really give you some insights on latest updates in the CAP world. We will get an update on the recap that is coming up shortly. It's less than 1 month, and we hope that many of you will join us there. Then we have an upcoming major release, and Daniel and Christian will give us an outlook on that one. Max and Matthias will provide you the latest insights on our AI-powered CAP apps, and we have some updates on our CAP plugins. And after that, we are really happy to welcome Rakesh, who will also give us an update on his experiences with external data mashups. Right, and after that, as said, we will turn off recording and then we will turn to the Q&A. Right, and having said this, Sebastian, hand over to you for giving us an outlook to the upcoming Code Connect and recap.
Yes, thanks a lot, Birgit, for the nice intro, and nice to see you all in our roundtable. So as Birgit said, it's a little less than 1 month to go until our big highlight of the year, which happens for the 7th or 8th times, I think, already in a row every year. We meet in summer. This year on the 15th of July, it's a Wednesday, and as the last 2 years, we will have like a very packed Code Connect week as well. So basically, we start already on Monday, July 13th, with Code Jam sessions. This time 3 in parallel. Will be 5 Code Jam, a AI Code Jam, and a CAP Code Jam also. This will take place on Monday. There will be an evening event already on Monday, where we can all meet when people are already there or attended the Code Jam. Then there will be the 3 big conferences on the next day. So we start with the UI5Con, as traditionally. It's also the oldest conference in our setup. This will take place on Tuesday. There will be even a HANA Code Jam happening also on Tuesday. Then there will be Recap, our big event on Wednesday, marked in bold here. I will talk about this in a minute longer. And we finish then on Thursday with the HANA TechCon, which is still quite young, happening for the 2nd time. Yeah, so we will have a very packed week with a lot of content, a lot of chances to meet, to exchange ideas and feedback, and so on and so forth. Let me talk a little bit more in detail about Recap. So we published the agenda some days or weeks ago now, probably included the link here. And I will also paste some links into the chat after my talk. The most important ones to the Code Connect website as well to our website. So you find the agenda now online. As the question comes very often, if you don't have an on-site ticket or you cannot join on-site, we will have online streams for the 2 presentation tracks. So for the main track, which is happening in the Audimax room, the side track happening in W1, W2. So for those 2 tracks, there will be online streams, our broadcasting tool or in Teams. And we also share all the recordings on YouTube, on our Recap YouTube channel, usually a week after Recap or 1 or 2 weeks after, let's see. But we also changed a bit. If you know Recap already, we had these expert corners. We now renamed them to topic corners and also changed the setup a bit. Because not only there will be an expert and you can ask questions, there will be also, let's say, large screens to certain topics, including short demos. All the experts will be there to certain topics and you can go there, usually watch a short demo and still ask your questions, of course. But we, let's say, want to improve this format with the topic corners, how we call them now, more. What we also have new, completely new this year, this was actually invented by Daniel Schlachter from our enablement team. We have like a nice, what we call Kapire trivia quiz now. This will take place all day. And you can win even some small prizes there. You learn a lot about CAP. You learn a lot about how the app even was built. Will be a very interesting highlight, I think. Looking forward to this as well. You will see this very prominently also at Recap. And maybe the last statement from my side. So if you have an urgent need to join us on site and you couldn't make it, you didn't get a ticket because we were again sold out actually live after 1-2 minutes, as the number of on-site tickets we have is very limited due to the building we are using. If you have a very urgent need to come and visit us on site, I have some very, let's say, small capacity left to hand out tickets. Ping me here or via email or in LinkedIn, and then we figure it out. So having said this, looking very much forward to the 15th of July to meeting you all, even maybe on Monday already at the Co-Jam for Cup, which will be, by the way, again hosted by DJ Adams and friends. So thanks for this again, DJ. Also another highlight every year. So yeah, looking forward to this. Looking forward to meeting you all. And yeah, that's it for now. And I hope I got you heated up. And then let's continue in our program. And for this, that is about the upcoming major release. And for this, I hand over to you, Daniel.
Yeah.
Do you want to share yourself? Or?
Yes, I do share. Going to the preview of our June release notes. And that already started with the April rollout, where we packed a lot of things already in and complement them in the major. So they basically contribute to that. What we saw here, we have this new CDS test update version 1. Actually, some of you asked that about a few months ago, whether we will still support and maintain and invest in CDS test, and yes, we do. Just to let you know, the problem is Jest. You know, there are different test frameworks for Node.js, Mocha, Jest, Node test, the native Node test, and we support all of these, and recently added vtest, which we would recommend to use as the best choice. Node test is also a good choice, but it has a poor reporting when you need to look into the bugs. Let me quickly show you this vtest thing. I have here our cup samples here, and I just gave it a try. Now, what you can do when you have a project, scan, you just run vtest, and it does something like that. It spits out a lot of details, so I can also run it silently, I think. Yeah, it's better. And it looks like that. And when there's something wrong, then it would show you that. You can also run it with a UI. That looks like that. It's a locally served web UI where you can collapse the thing and look at the details, etc. So quite nice. And behind that is Vite, and Vite is like the standard bundler, meanwhile, in the Node.js world, used in React and all other frameworks, and by VitePress, which is our Capire technology. With that, we were able to finally move to the latest Chai 6, which uses ES modules. And this is the reason we were not able to show you the samples in ES module technique. We support that since 3 or 4 years, but Jest doesn't. And Jest is the pain point. So we, in addition, move our own test base completely away from Jest to vtest. And with that, we are then free to show ESM in all places. Currently, this is what bounds are. Now, means we go more native with no test instead of Jest, vtest, more native and more than internally. And also for the, this stupid pop-up of Teams is also always in my way, we dropped using the third-party library, Axios. It's the most used HTTP client out there, in favor of using Node native Fetch API. This is a web standard used in browsers, and Node And it allows us to have less dependencies, and less dependencies also means less attack surface for things like Shai-Hulud attacks, and we were victims of that. And the main reason is the surface. We continued that, or maybe one remark on no cloud SDK doesn't mean no cloud SDK, not only cloud SDK is the meaning of that. Similar to NoSQL means not only SQL. We can run in development without Cloud SDK now, because Cloud SDK is what we use in production for looking up destinations, BDP destinations, doing token exchanges, which we don't need at development. So in development, no additional dependency requires, again, less surface. Cloud SDK has tens or hundreds of dependencies. We, meanwhile, have 0. We also dropped the generic pool and really have 0 dependencies. We only build on native Node.js. Yeah, with that, going one further to the June release, there's also this thing, no draft requests means not only draft requests, and that is sort of related to AI. You know, these draft things, to be honest, are a pain in the ass. It's very hard to implement it, and whenever you activate draft for an entity, all your clients who don't know anything about Fiori have a hard work to send the requests. For example, your AI agents, they don't know anything about Fiori draft and should not know. And this is what we enabled by that thing here. We now reached that point with CDS 10 for Node.js that your clients can send standard HTTP requests. Yeah, and this brings us to the major release itself. Now, we know that it's hard for you to follow our advice to stay up to date, because each major release upgrade is a pain for you. And we had sessions with some of you in the beginning of the year where we collected all that feedbacks and tried to make things better. It starts with a migration guide where we want to inform you upfront what you have to be feared about. And we see things like this decimals in things, fixed service results. They are all things where we take care to not be breaking. But we would still be breaking if you coded against undocumented stuff. And unfortunately, sometimes you have to, because we weren't very clear. So we needed to clean up our APIs, become better, and then again, AI has an easier way to use our APIs because they are consistent. So these are the reasons documented here in this guide. And another thing we invested in is the thing I want to hand over to Christian next to me. It's this upgrade tool. You should not have to read this guide, but use the upgrade tool that Christian shows now that does that for you.
All right.
Yeah.
So let me share then. Right. So I just want to have just one slide and then a demo here. Basically adding to what Daniel just said. So that's the guide you have just seen, and we are now building on top with this CDS upgrade tool that just basically what does, it does like a first analysis of whether you are affected, and it's the main part of it, right? It should tell you, okay, are you affected with some of these changes, and if yes, in which places, give you a little bit of context, and then also like link you back to the documentation that you've just seen. It also tries to do some of the actually deterministic code fixes, so things that we are sure we can do for you. And it also will integrate the open rewrite recipes for CapJava. So also CapJava is covered here. Open rewrite is a technology that we're using there to basically script, automate migrations, like in a out of the box way. We are heavily investing there, and CDS upgrade also will add these, so that just to make it easier, call them. So it's both covered, Node.js and Java. And on top of that CDS upgrade tool, we also offer an upgrade skill for AI that just assists you with the more the non-deterministic code changes where you need like the smartness of AI, the context, the lookups that it can do with the documentation, etc. Right? Not everything we can really do deterministically. That's why we think it's a good combination to have both. So you probably would start with CDS upgrade, and then if you're like already anyways using AI, then you're just using that skill that's like pre-built for you, so that in the end you just need to say upgrade to CDS 10 there, right? And then the skill will take over. You can also then choose which like client you want to use. We're not like committed to any specific like Claude or OpenCode or whatever. Up to you, Joule. We're just like providing the skill. And the whole thing basically starts that journey with the version 9 to 10, 10 being upcoming. This is why it's not yet at your hands, right? So give us like a few weeks until you have it in your hands. But what you will now see is a preview of what's upcoming. And then like going on, if we think this works out, and like depending on also on your feedback, we then can expand into maybe older releases, like giving you upgrades from 8 to 9, right? Because we know we have seen that from your feedback that like some of you are even on older versions, right? Probably we need to stop somewhere, right? Like in the unmaintained code territory, but we start from 9 to 10. That's the message here. All right, so let's do a little demo. I've just prepared like the S-Flight application that we just changed slightly to show you some of the effects. So you basically want to do that CDS upgrade as it's written in the guide and documentation. And you probably want to have a Git version control backing you up. You probably want to have a dedicated branch where you do stuff, right? So don't start this journey with like in the middle of other stuff that you are at the moment doing, right? That's probably not a good thing. You probably want to have like an isolated green state. Also make sure it's green, right? The build runs, the tests are fine, so that you have a stable base for that journey here. And starting CDS upgrade, it will basically do a series of pre-flight checks, like checking whether the CDSDK version is high enough, giving you the hint about Git that I've just like alluded to, checking the project type, and some basic stuff. It will run CDS build to make sure you are on that green state, and then at its core, it will basically scan through these code changes that we've just seen and give you the list of things that are maybe relevant. We try to narrow it down as much as we can, but here and there we need to be a bit more coarse so that we catch everything and then can build on top of. So, and now what we basically want to lead you to into a CDS upgrade report, right? That's a markdown file that we've generated for you that has all the glory details inside, right? It again tells you what it has done. And then at its core, it basically gives you that table of contents of stuff categories that it has done, and then leads you down to things like the first thing would probably like be a Node.js version upgrade or a check. 20 is probably too old. We don't support that. It's 22, easy thing. And then more things, just picking out some. There's a various set of like compatibility flags that you might have still used for this and that reason. And we want to make you aware of that. And also some of the flags got removed. And that's now the time really to get rid of them, and then also doing maybe the necessary code adjustments. So usually I would just click here. Let me navigate that because the link still doesn't work. Okay, that's it. So we basically give you a little like a context text, strip that down a bit still, give you the details about what the code changes would be, and then also link you down here into the places where you have just used that these flags, right? So that's probably where you want to like start removing those, and then that's the context here of what you basically would need to change here, making these functions here async. That's just one example of these changes. Right, and building then basically on top, we can have, and the next thing you probably would want to do is to have that using that fix flag here. So by default, we run in a like conservative, just tell me things, don't do things. And this is now the time to basically run that again on a clean state. And then it will, for instance, what it will do all the ugly version bumps. And we've heard you loud and clear that even the mechanics of version bumping could be confusing sometimes, because you need to bump maybe 2 packages at once and not only one. If you only bump one, you get like weird NPM errors, right? These things we do for you. Let's see what it has done. It has just adjusted the package log JSON here to make sure the new versions are in place. It would also have adjusted the package JSON if those versions would be necessary to bump. So also like the version mechanics are bumped. They're not mentioned really into the in the migration guide, but we know they are necessary. That's why we also do that for you. All right, so git upgrade fix. We have the CMD upgrade report. And the next thing after you maybe have to change the things here and verify that they're working is like that skill. And I just like wanna show that. Where have it here? So we have a version skill ready for you, and we will also distribute that. But that basically, the main message I want to convey here, it builds on top of the CDS upgrade tool. Yeah, it builds on top of the findings that it has produced, and then will run drive AI with that. The reason is that AI isn't really great at finding all the places in your code where things might have changed. That's why CDS upgrade does that for you. And then we're just running AI on top of these findings and narrow it down and fix them if necessary, right? And that's what this skill will do that for you. Right, so that's basically the things I want to show. Again, coming back to these slides. CDS upgrade tool plus the documentation plus the skills, starting with CDS 10, which is upcoming. And then we're curious about your feedback, and we very much hope that this will improve the pains that you might have had in the past.
Thanks, Christian.
Yeah.
Yeah, that can directly go to Max, right?
Yes, Matthias will go first, and then I will go second.
All right, let me share my screen. Okay, thanks, Daniel. Thanks, Christian. I'll start with similarity search and vector embeddings. I don't have slides, so let's right away dive into a demo and see what's that good for. So here you see the CAP incident management app from GitHub with a lot of incidents in the area of solar panels and inverters. We extended this app with a similarity search and an AI chat feature that you see here, where we can ask a question to a large language model. So let's right away do this. Let's go with their patterns with overheating inverters. Now the language model already knows a lot, but it certainly does not know about the specific incidents we have here. So what we need to do is to provide the incidents that are relevant to the question as context to the LLM. And this is what we are doing with similarity search and vector embeddings. And I'll show you how this is technically working in a minute. So now what you can see here, we have a list of incidents that are somehow related to the question, and also an answer from the language model that apparently detected some patterns here. So this is related to the incidents we gave here as context. Well, let's dive into one of these incidents. What do we see here? There is a summary of the incident. We have conversation, and what is now new is there's also a similar incidents section here that would just show you for the currently opened incident what are semantically related incidents, also in this case related to overheating and high temperature. So yeah, let's just see how this is technically done and working, what you need to do to get this running. Switch here. What we did is first extend the CDS model. So we are extending the incidence and added a embedding element of type vector. This is a stored calculated element. So each time the incident is updated on the database, the value for embedding is computed. So this, you don't need a handler for this. And what we do here is we are using the vector embedding function from HANA, and this takes the title and the summary of the incident, and then one of the HANA embedding models from the NLP extension. This is defined here. And now this embedding model computes or maps the title and the summary into a vector in a high dimensional vector space. And now the nice thing about these vectors is that semantically similar text is mapped to similar vectors. And this means we can use vector functions like cosine similarity to find semantically related similar incidents. And this is what we are doing now here in the a similar incident association that you also saw in the tab on the UI. So this is just a standard to-many association from one incident to all other incidents. And here we are then using the cosine similarity to compute the similarity between the embedding for the currently open, for the current incident here, and all other incidents, and just return incidents that have a high similarity as defined. And yeah, that's already it, what you need to do to get the similar incidents tab running. Now for the AI chat feature, this is a little bit more complicated. There we added an action, Ask AI here, that takes the user query as an input and returns then the response from the LLM just as a string. And in order to get this running, we need to provide or implement some custom code. So this is a CapJava application, the handler code you see here. This is the code for the on Ask AI action that we just defined. And what we are doing here is basically retrieval augmented generation. There are two steps. The first step is retrieval or similarity search, where we take the user question from the input and find then relevant incidents to this question. And then as a second step, we take the incidents we found and give them as context together with the question to the LLM, and then just call this via SAP AI Core. For now, we are more interested in the similarity search part here, the retrieval part, finding relevant incidents for the user questions. So let's have a look into this one. This is just defined here. And what we're doing is we take the vector embedding function that you already saw or know from the CDS model before. This time we compute it or use it on the user question, and using the same model, compute an embedding or search vector of the question. And now with this, we can use the cosine similarity function that you also saw before in the model to find similar incidents to the question, just taking the search vector and all the incidents. And this is just a standard function we can use in queries. So we define a select from the incidents and then filter incidents with a high similarity to the user question. We order by the similarity and just return the top 10. And this is already what we need to do to do similarity search. All right, this new vector embedding function, this is currently available as beta in CapJava. It works certainly on HANA, but also locally on H2 and SQLite if you want to do local testing. And the Cap node runtime will follow. Yeah, so that's was on semantic similarity search and retrieval augmented generation with vector embeddings. And with that, I'll hand over to Max.
All right. That's actually a perfect segue because you already teased the call to SAP AI Core and the AI Core integration. So let me share my screen and show you how we are going to simplify that in the future. Maybe before that, as Daniel already mentioned, in the recent weeks, months, releases, we are really investing a lot into AI topics. And the AI plugin is really a core investment in that area. You already might have seen the Node plugin that has been published already in the last couple of weeks. But there is also a Java version coming quite soon, so stay tuned for that. So what does it do? It basically has two value propositions, so to say. The first one is that it really simplifies the integration with AI Core. So as Matthias already showed, there might be use cases where you just want to talk to AI Core and you don't want to handcraft your requests, right? And bother with all the configuration and setup and figuring out how the API works. So that's really where the AI plugin comes into play because we really simplified that by providing cup-level service interfaces, so following the Kalesi principle, to talk to an AI Core instance. On top of that, we also added support for a couple of specific use cases, so to say, which are quite often. And the primary use case for the first release of that plugin is AI-powered recommendations leveraging the Rapid-1 or RPT-1 model from SAP. So what does it do? It basically takes all, it takes all fields with that have a value list attached, and then it automatically integrates with the Rapid-1 model from SAP. And based on that, it generates recommendations in the UI. So let me actually show you a demo. So I have my bookshop here. We have a couple of fields annotated with the value list annotation. So I did it for the genre, but also for the author and the currency, for example. And what we can see now, if we go to the bookshop application and I just click on any of the books and edit it, we can already see those highlighted fields here in blue, which are already pre-populated with a recommendation based on Rapid-1. So basically, we send all the data to AI Core, let the Rapid-1 model come up with a recommendation based on the other data, based on the context window, so to say. And then we pre-populate those fields with the recommendation that Rapid-1 suggests. So for example, for the genre, it suggests that drama would be the most suitable one. For the currency, it suggested British pound, probably because the text is in English. We can also cross-check that and, for example, have a look at the German version. And here, yeah, we should see drama is still applicable because it's basically the same book, same content, same title, just a different language. But here it automatically detected that the currency could be euros. I can also directly take those suggestions when I click on save. Of course, I'm asked if I want to accept them because they are AI generated. So it's always reasonable to have a human in the loop and double check the values. But if the values look good, I can just accept it and save it. Of course, this is a toy example. It makes a lot of sense in larger applications with really big entities, with a lot of boilerplate fields. In most of the cases, it works pretty well and is able to automatically fill out those fields with reasonable values. All right. We support both a declarative way here, as I already showed in the application, but as I already mentioned, it can also be used programmatically. So we provide those interfaces. In the end, it's just another CUP service, external service, so we can connect to it, and then we can use the functionality that AI Core provides. As I already mentioned, that's only the beginning, right? So there are a lot more features to come, not only in this plugin, but also in other areas of AI. Daniel already teased some of them. So the overall goal is really that our users should be able to use those AI features without being an expert in AI, right? Use them out of the box, get as much or as less configuration as possible, ideally zero configuration, and just being able to use all those great AI features out of the box without a lot of overhead. Okay, that's it for the AI plugin. Then I would directly move on to the updates on other CUP plugins, or are there any questions, or do we want to take them at the end, Birgit?
As we are pretty short in time this time, let's perhaps do it in the end. And I've seen that already a couple of questions came up in the chat, so we can also answer questions via chat already. And what is open left, then in the end, we can do that.
Sounds good. Then I will directly continue with other plugin updates. So the AI plugin is not the only plugin that we worked on in the last couple of weeks and months. One really big milestone is the release of the completely overhauled change tracking plugin. So the version 2 of it, which was released recently. I think most of you already know the change tracking plugin. It already exists for quite a long time. So for those of you who don't, it's basically a plugin to capture the change history of data modifications. And there was already a version 1, but now with version 2, we completely revisited the architecture. So now instead of doing the change tracking at app level, we do it completely natively using database triggers. So we are basically pushing down this functionality or the logic to the database level, which comes with a couple of really significant improvements. First and foremost, the performance improvement. So as you can see from the diagram here, especially in nested scenarios with a lot of children entities, we get a performance speed up of up to 50 times. In simpler use cases, it's not that big, but still quite significant. A couple of other improvements include the tree table visualization, for example, and also an extended support for the expression language. So you can define some expressions, conditions. You can define conditions here when something should be logged, and so on and so forth. Again, this is already out for Node. For Java already also supports change tracking, but we are also working on bringing this new revisited version also to the Java world. So stay tuned. Short note at the end, there is some migration needed because the database schema obviously looks different because of that changed architecture. So if you want to use the new version, a migration is needed. There is also some explanation and a migration guide basically in the README of the plugin. Okay, a couple of other plugin additions to our plugin world. You might have seen that one already. So in collaboration with the SBPA team, we released a new build process automation plugin that's currently in beta. So as always, if you have any feedback, questions, comments, feel free to reach out to us. What does it do? So it basically simplifies the integration with the SAP build process automation service with the workflows. So you can manage the life cycle of workflows, start them, cancel them, retrieve information on processes running, and all that through a cup-level service interface. So again, the Kalesi idea, so we Kalesified the integration. We also have a CDS import command, which is quite handy, which you can see here. So you can, once you connect it to your SBPA instance, you can basically import a process, and then we automatically generate a fully typed service interface for you. And then you can use that service, as you can see here, as any other cup service, and then use it to programmatically start processes, for example. It's also possible in a declarative way, so via annotation. So here in this case, for example, I can define that on every creation of a new instance of that entity, I want to start a certain process here called shipment process, for example. And we also provide local mocking, so you can, as you expect and love that from CAP, you can develop locally as long as possible, and then only at the end test it in a hybrid or deploy it to the cloud. Last but not least, I want to quickly mention the new print service plugin, which is also in beta, which, as the name suggests, integrates with the BTP print service. But basically works on any entity with a large binary attribute that can be printed, like a PDF file, for example. It also automatically adds some UI elements, so a print button where you can then select the printer queue and trigger the print action on the print service. Again, local mocking is possible, where it would just print the content or some statement, some debug log to the console. And we again have those two modes, so a programmatic way to use it, but also the declarative way by simply adding one annotation, 0 config, and then you can make use of the print service integration. Okay, that's it from my side. Handing back to Birgit.
Maybe one addition from my side, Birgit first. Max is, as usual, very humble, and but the team that he's leading is doing a lot of work. And in case you were hoping to hear something about other things like MCP or agents, you rightfully did so. And yes, we invested in that as well. But, it's SAP, and we are not allowed to talk about these things at all times as much as we wish to be allowed. So Gerhard just eyes me.
I tried to teaser it as good as I could. But yes, stay tuned. So there's
exactly.
a lot more
this
to come
I
in
wanted
the
to add.
AI area.
Yeah, so stay tuned. join us at Recap and learn a lot more about these kind of things.
Great. Perfect. Then thanks a lot to the colleagues for this great overview on upcoming features, updates, what we did recently, what we plan to do. As already mentioned, our agenda is very packed today, and therefore I would really like to ask you to either ask your questions via chat or keep them until the Q&A. And I would love to hand over directly now to Rakesh, so that we have enough time for your also very interesting topic. Do you want to share? I gave you presenter rights, so in case you have anything to share, feel free to do so.
Sure. Thanks. I do have some slides, so I can just share that one. Let me
Perfect. Great.
share my screen. Yeah. Is my screen visible?
Yeah, we can see it now. Great.
Okay. Yeah. Hey, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining. My name is Rakesh Jain, and I'm a solution architect at SESC. I've been working deeply with CAP for several years, building cloud-native applications and integrating with S4 and SAP and non-SAP systems. Today, I want to talk about a topic that's central to almost every enterprise, CAP projects. So how to bring external data into SAP, into CAP in a way that is clean, reusable, and enterprise grade. So in next 15-20 minutes, I'll be showing you how CAP can become the enterprise composition layer for external APIs, SAP service, and local data models, so that your application don't just connect to the system, but truly compose business values from them. Yeah. So the today's integration dilemma is no application lives in isolation. A typical business application says a customer 360 dashboard or the procurement dashboard or a risk management tool needs data from either S4HANA, like for orders, customers, and the materials, success factor, or HR systems for the employee data, and third-party APIs for like credit risk, logistics data, the market data, or for example, the fraud detections, etc. So the internal or maybe the internal systems like the legacy applications, the custom services, or the data warehouses. The challenge is that the teams often implement this as a many point-to-point integrations. The UI might call S4HANA directly for some data, third-party APIs for the other data sets, and a custom services for the rest. The same orchestration logic is duplicated across different apps. This creates several problems. It lowers the feature delivery. Every new feature needs new integration work. Higher maintenance cost. When an API changes, you touch many places. Inconsistent data contracts, like different apps sees different version of the customers or the orders. Our goal is to move from this brittle ad hoc pattern to a reusable governed capability where integration complexity is handled at one place and the business app sees a clear and a stable contract. Yeah, that's where the CAP comes in. Now let me position CAP clearly in this picture. In our architecture, CAP is the biggest facade, the composition layer between the business consumer and the external system. Instead of modeling each source system exposes, we model what the business application needs. We define local entities that represents customer, orders, risk, or products in the business terms. Then we import external services and wire them into these entities. As the SAP documentation describes, you can add the external data models with modeling your application, and CAP will help you import and expose those services through your own service definition. In practice, this means the UI or the API client sees one CAP service with one clean contract. Behind that service, CAP orchestrates all to those S4HANA or third-party APIs and maybe local persistence data services. If the backend changes, we adjust that CAP layer, but the consumer contract stays stable. This is the core idea. The CAP hides source complexity and exposes the business semantics. Let me look at the high level of the architecture. So at the top here, we have our consumers, either SAP Fiori apps or the mobile applications or any other API clients, possibly even non-SAP system as well. They all talk to the central CAP service layer. This layer contains what I call a mashup service, a CAP service that combines data from the different sources and exposes it as a unified business contract. Below that, we have other remote services coming from S4HANA public cloud systems, SuccessFactor, or any other SAP cloud services. We do have some partner APIs for the logistics, the credit fraud, and etc. And we do also have the custom data services built on top of the legacy systems. So everything is in combined and it's exposure at the CAP layer. And in some cases, we also have some persistence in the HANA Cloud for the productive data and the SQLite and any other local databases for the development task. The CAP sits in the middle layer. It doesn't try to replace these systems. Instead, it composes them. It exposes a single stable API at the top, and it orchestrates the calls to the layers below. This is what makes CAP in an ideal enterprise composition layer. Now, what patterns do we actually use to build these meshes? So there are 5 core patterns that I have seen work well in the enterprise CAP projects. The first, I would say, is the aggregation. We combine data from multiple sources into one view. For example, customer 360 dashboard that creates an entity, and by aggregating the data, the customer data from S4 system, the contract data also from the CRM system, and risk data from the third-party API. In CAP, this is typically done with a custom entity and on a read handler that merges the results. And the second pattern that we use is enrichment. We take a local entity and add the remote attributes to it. For example, the local orders entity enriched with the shipping status from a logistics API. In modeling terms, we extend that local entity and handle that enrichment in the service layer. And then the next one, we use the facade layer. We normalize several APIs into one contract. For example, the multiple S4HANA systems services or a partner APIs for a product availability, and are exposed a single product availability service in CAP. This is where the projections shine. They let us control exactly what the consumer sees. In the next pattern, we use the canonical model, and we map multiple systems to stable business model. For example, different systems might have the different customers model. CAP defines a canonical customer entity, and each external services is mapped into one model. This is crucial for long-term scalability. And the final, we see the event assisted sync model. We use this multiple events to improve the performance and resilience. Instead of calling remote service on every read, we can pre-compute and the cache the data. triggered by the events from the source system. This is specifically used full for a high volume scenarios. All of these patterns are implemented using CAP projections and service handlers, specifically on the read handlers that fetches and merges the data from the remote services. Let's walk through the implementation flow in a very simplified form. First, we import the external services metadata by using EDMX and CSN metadata file into the folder external onto the service module. This is exactly what the SAP Code Jam exercise also on the similar pattern. And you add the CDS definition to both imported external services and your main services to integrate them cleanly. The second steps define a CAP mashup service. So next you define the CAP service that exposes the business shape you want. This service imports the external services and define the projection or custom entities that represents the business view. The SAP learning journey on adding an external service shows the pattern clearly import and then compose. The third step we implement on the read handlers. This is where the magic happens. In a service implementation, usually the Node.js, you implement the read handlers for the external or the mashup entities. These handlers first connect to the external service using cds.connect to, and then it calls the remote APIs using the Fluent Query APIs or direct HTTPs. And third step would be the merging of the data from the different sources. And finally, we return the merged result into using request.reply API. And the next step is using the local persistence selectively. So we don't need to persist everything. Use local persistence only when it adds the value. For caching, for workflow state, or aggregated data that doesn't need to be real time. And finally, we validate the results using the series watch for the local development or by executing the integration test from end-to-end scenarios, or maybe by testing to ensure the API contract stays stable. This flow is simple, but it scales when you apply it consistently across the service. Let me make this concrete with an example. Imagine a business scenario, a customer dashboard that shows customer profile from S4HANA system, open orders from S4HANA, credit risk data from a third-party risk API. In a typical ad hoc approach, the UI might call S4HANA directly for customer and orders and call the risk API separately. This orchestration logic is split across different layers. But in our CAP-based approach, we import S4HANA customer and order services into external services. We also import third-party risk APIs as another external service. We define a customer mashup service in CAP. In the read handler, we fetch customer data from S4HANA, fetch open orders also from S4HANA, and fetch credit data from the third-party API and merge all of these into a single response. In the end, the UI sees one endpoint with one stable contract. These semantics are consistent, security is enforced at the CAP layer, and the backend systems are evolved independently. This is a simple story, but it's the essence of the seamless external data mashups in CAP. In enterprise environments, integration is not just about functionality. You need security, governance, and performances. The security, for the security, the CAP must handle identity propagation correctly. When your CAP services calls an external service, it should propagate the user identity via the destination, not just use a single system user. You also need to enforce the authorization at the CAP layer so that the roles and scopes are checked before external calls are made. The principle of the least privilege is the key, and your CAP service should only call when it needs. And for the governance, we need versioning of all the CAP services, independent of the backend API versions. So you need clear data contracts. What does customer mean in your system? You need you need auditability, who called, what, and when. And need throttling and compliance, specifically when dealing with the sensitive data or external providers. The performance latency is the real concern. When you chain multiple services, don't overfetch remote APIs, use selective projections, lazy fetching and caching, batch calls when possible, and always configure timeouts. If a remote service is slow or down, you need a fallback behavior, a show partial data or a degraded view instead of failing the entire request. And related to the observability, finally, use the correlation IDs that flow from the UI through the CAP and into the external service. Use structured logs and traces. Classify errors clearly. Is the backend is it the backend error or a timeout error or a business rule violation? All this is a part of making a CAP a trusted enterprise composition layer, not just a quick integration hack. Let me close with a few key messages. First, CAP can become the enterprise composition layer for an external data, not just a local backend. It is not enough to use CAP for local entities and OData services. The real power comes when you use CAP to compose multiple sources into one business view. A second would be the best mashups are invisible. The consumer don't care how many systems are behind the API. They just see one stable business friendly contract. If your mashup is well designed, no one will know it's a mashup. Third one is the team and architecture challenge. Not just coding challenge, you need standard patterns and the governance. So here my call to action, define a clear process for importing external services, configuring destinations and modeling them in a CAP. Don't just copy S4HANA entities into CAP, define services that reflect business needs. For example, order overview, product availability, customer, etc. So create a shared library of patterns, handlers, and the utilities that team can use instead of reinventing integration logic for every project. If you do this, you will elevate your CAP development from local backend to the enterprise composition layer, and that's where CAP truly shines. Thank you.